In my opinion, New York is by far the worst state for nurses to work in. It's been 5 years since we moved from New York City to Sacramento, California. In the first video I made on our channel, I talked about the 5 reasons why every nurse should move to California. But I never really talked about the reasons that led us to leave New York City. So after being asked by one of our viewers to discuss our reasoning for wanting to leave New York City, here we are. In this video, I'll be talking about why New York State is one of the worst states for nurses to work in, and I'll give you the 5 main reasons why we left New York City. Reason number 1, the thing we hated most about working in New York is that we had no ratios.
New York State nurses say they have had enough, and they are now calling on Albany to pass a new law that would force hospitals and nursing homes to abide by new minimum staffing levels.
As you all are probably aware by now, California is the only state in the entire country that has ratio laws. I remember frequently coming to work and receiving an assignment of 10 to 15 patients in the emergency department. And the worst part was that those 10 to 15 patients were not just limited to med-surg patients. Oftentimes, I would find myself taking care of very critical patients along with my other 10 to 15 patients. When it came time to lunch breaks, because we had no lunch relief nurses, whenever I or my coworker wanted to go on a lunch break, we had to relieve each other. That meant that almost every single day we would have a patient load of anywhere from 15 to even 30 patients. Just a few months ago, we were in New York City and I met up with a couple of my former coworkers, and one of them told me that she went into work and received an assignment of 20 patients, and this was not even at the height of COVID. The COVID cases in New York City were relatively low at that time of the year. And don't just take my word for it, there are plenty of nurses that share the same stories I have. If you ask any nurse that works in an ER in New York City, you're going to hear similar stories. Reason number 2, while working in New York City, our pay was half, if not less than half, of what we currently earn here in California. During the last couple of months of working in New York City, I earned an hourly rate of around $51 per hour. That hourly rate included my night shift differential. However, here in California, I currently work the evening shift and I earn $96.54 per hour. Monica, on the other hand, as many of you already know, works per diem. This means that her rate is going to be a lot higher than mine because I'm a benefited employee. She receives her insurance from me, which means she has the liberty of taking on a per diem position for the higher pay. So as of the most recent pay stub, Monica earns $118.10 per hour with the night shift differential included. So as you can see by our hourly rate, we earn at least 2 times more than we did when we worked in New York City. Reason number 3, we wanted to move to a place where I didn't have to wake up early to shovel snow before going to work, but we still wanted to be close enough to the snow where we could enjoy ourselves during the winter seasons. We love to snowboard and we wanted actual snow. While living in New York City, all we snowboarded in was ice. That is why the East Coast is known as the Ice Coast. And if you know anything about Sacramento, California, you'll know that Lake Tahoe has some of the best mountains for snowboarding and skiing in all of California. And in addition to Lake Tahoe, we also have Whistler Blackcomb. And if you know anything about Whistler Blackcomb, you'll know that it is the largest ski resort in all of North America, and we try to visit it at least once a year. Reason number 4, we wanted to be closer to Hawaii while also having the opportunity to visit all of the states on the West Coast. So far, we've been to Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, and Utah. And in fact, we love Utah so much that we've been there twice since moving here from New York City. And if you enjoy visiting Hawaii, you can catch a flight to Hawaii for as low as $250 to $300. Alright, let's move on to the last reason why we left New York City. Reason number 5, overall, New York City is 38.7% more expensive to live in than Sacramento, California. If you look down this list, food, groceries, housing, the median home cost, utilities, transportation, health, and other miscellaneous items are going to be much more expensive in New York City than they are in Sacramento, California. So if you take into account the fact that Monica and I are making at least twice as much as we were in New York City and have a cost of living that is 38.7% less than it was in New York City, you can obviously see that at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot more money in our bank accounts than we did when we were in New York City. Alright, I've given you the 5 reasons why we left New York City for California. So if you are convinced by now and you want to move to California, then you might want to watch this video here where I go over the highest paying cities in California for nurses.